Hi YouTube. I'd like to explain something very informative. Most of you might already know since you're already watching my channel, and probably you're watching other people that are very well informed, like Alex Jones or Stefan Molyneux. I'm sorry to lump those two people together, but I see them as very intelligent people, just different types of intelligent people that focus on different things, and obviously there's Petership as well, um, that tend to focus on the things that are happening in the world that people usually don't focus on most of the time, because it's a rather depressing topic to think about what's going on in our society, obviously. Um, but Christmas, obviously, as many of you know, has already just passed, and this is the holiday season. We're going into 2014. In 2014, I think we should notice a sort of shift in in the public uh, the public idea of where our society is going. I think that the internet has fostered not only mass creativity and mass economic growth after the dot-com bubble has bursted and more free market economic ideas can go through on the market on the internet. I'm not talking about Amazon, even though it's one of those smaller companies that did survive and succeed and become a mega maniacal business that evidently actually helps out other individual people and other individual businesses as well. It has become a platform of free enterprise, and in my own opinion, Amazon's a really good website. Not only is it a good website to get whatever you need on there, as many of you know, probably went on there for Christmas and getting Christmas gifts and everything else like that, but I think the way that it has its business model set up, it actually helps individuals like you and I and other individual small shops uh, sell their goods and their items, and obviously Amazon gets some sort of something out of it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because Amazon needs to make money as much as any other company. But Amazon's just one of those companies that helps other companies out, and that's pretty much what I think free market economics should be like. And obviously you don't have it in cities and suburbs usually. I'd like to say that one day, that was today actually, today I was walking around and I saw these little small shops in Philadelphia. I'm not talking about right in center city where all the skyscrapers are, where all the businessmen in the suits go to work. I'm talking about the smaller shops that I see over at Rittenhouse Square, which is kind of a ritzy area, but just going through and seeing different shops, store after store after store, all these individual shops selling groceries and selling other items like clothing and everything, stores that I've never actually heard of, and I've only seen one or two of them around floating in the actual specified area of Philadelphia, meaning West Philadelphia, where University of Penn and Drexel University is, where I go, and over in Rittenhouse Square, where that's where I'm talking about. But anyway, I'd like to get this across that although I really do like getting gifts, although I really do like buying crap that I don't need, although I really do like playing video games and going on Steam and buying as many games as possible and later on not even playing them, which is kind of absurd. Um, I've come to the realization that we're basically living in a prison. What do I mean by that? What do I mean that we're living in a prison? As before, I have created a video about freedom and how we're not really free, and how we go to school, which I will elaborate on. School is just a place to learn just enough to get by in this prison that we've created for ourselves. So you go to school, you learn enough to get out into the world, or to get out to a technical school or a college or university like where I go to, and learn a bit more in the specified field where you want to get into. My field is information technology. I want to get into information technology, and obviously I'm choosing it not because I just want the money, which I do, but because of the fact that it's a fun subject. And obviously there's a lot of people out there that will go into a career that they want to just because they like it, which ends up failing them sometimes because they're not able to find a job, and they're not able to get something in it, and they're not able to survive off of the money that they get from their career of choice that they've chosen, like film majors. I have a few friends that are film, or people that get into art schools and major in art history or something like that because it's interesting to them, but they wind up failing because there's nothing to do in art history. What are you going to do in art history? You're going to, become a director of a museum. You know how hard it is to do that in the first place. And then history, where you get, I'd really like to be a history major, but I can't do that because I just become a teacher or a professor, and that's already hard enough to get into. And obviously, IT is a lot easier to get into. Everybody wants IT people, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. That's not what this video is about. This video is about the prison system that we have created for ourselves, where you go to school in order to learn some subject that you want to get into to make cash, in order to survive, in order to buy a house or an apartment, and a bigger apartment, or a bigger house, and a bigger house, and a bigger house, so big, just not even just enough to have your family live in there, to have your wife live in there, to have your children live in there. Maybe you have 1 or 2 or 5 kids living in a house. And then what are you going to do? The kids are going to be like, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want this. The wife's going to be like, I want this, I want this, I want this. You're going to be like, oh, I want that, I want that, I want that. And what do you have? You have a Christmas party where you give it a bonus, and you go out and you buy more crap, and you put it in your house where you don't even use those rooms sometimes, and you just fill your house with more and more crap and more junk. And then you have a house full of items that you were going to use in the first place, but you decided not to use them because, guess what, I didn't want them anyway, because why would I want to use my Kindle from last year, because right now I'm using my iPod or my iPad or whatever the fuck it is this year, because it's a little bit better, not because the technology has advanced in any way. It still has the same processing power, it still has the same amount of space on the item itself, in order to actually just download the same crap that I had before, but not actually download it, but from getting a lease from the server on Amazon's network or whatever. I don't need to use my Kindle anymore. I can use my iPod or my iPad or something like that, because it has a cooler, ritzier name to it. And that's all. That's really all. Oh yeah, sure, people tell me it has a better operating system on it, that we have to have the Mac operating system instead of the Linux operating system because the Mac operating system is better, even though it's not, technologically speaking. You go off and you go into the world and you have this iPad and you're like showing off everyone. Hey, look at what I got. I got an iPad. It's white. It's awesome. You're sitting there and you're dabbling on your iPad, playing Angry Birds and everything else like that, to go to a repetitive job that you've been at for so many years just because you wanted the money. You go and you get the money and you hope for that raise. You hope to get in a higher position. Maybe years down the road you get in a higher position. What are you going to do with the higher position? What you do there is you sit on your ass as the CFO or the CEO or whatever the fuck you are in higher level management. You're bossing other underlings around, basically doing all the work anyway, and you're sitting there diddling on your computer and looking up YouTube videos, or you're playing a game on the corporate computer. IT person can't say, you know what, you're not allowed to play this because obviously you're the one that's their boss. You have to boss them around. You give them the money in order to keep the infrastructure up, and you do whatever you need to do to boss them around and keep them in line, even though you do nothing. And your underlings, which you used to be, and you know this, you know that you did all the work, but now you're in power and you don't care. You can be a Nazi. You can, like, say, hey, you know what, you do this or you're going to lose your fucking job. All around, 2014 comes up. Finally, 2014 comes up, and you realize that you have so much money, but you want more. You want more. You go off and you get a yacht. You get everything that you fucking possibly can, because you know, all the shit that you bought from Christmas and everything else like that, a year back, it's no longer any good. Because it no longer makes you any happy. Because you're above those people that you used to be. You're above a CIO. You're above the system administrator. You have all the power. You give the money that you need to the CIO. The CIO and basically tells his underlings what to do and whatever and blah blah blah. So you're the CEO, you have to be as cool as other CEOs. You don't even want a yacht. You don't even go in New Jersey to sail off into the open seas and everything else like that. It makes you seasick. But you have to own a yacht. You have to own a yacht because you see the other CEOs and everything else like that, they own a yacht. So you have to own a fucking yacht. You go off, you buy a fucking yacht, and there you are, you're sipping your martini and everything else like that with the little green olive in it, with the toothpick in it. Here's somebody like me, I come in, you hire me on as a help desk person or something else like that. You're like, oh, what credentials you have? I go off, I tell you about my credentials, I tell you about what I know about networking technology, I tell you that I want to help your business keep afloat. I want to help you. I literally want to help you, but obviously, you know, there's some things that's going to happen and everything else like that. I don't know how to do this, but I know how to do that. I hope that's no problem. No problem? Okay, hire you on. You hire me on. And what happens when I become system admin years down the road? And blah blah blah, the cycle repeats. Somebody like me tells you, hey, you know what's going on with the world? Your money is not worth anything. My money is not worth anything. The help desk person's money is not worth anything. Nobody's money is worth anything. We're based off of a system that is dead. We're based off of a dollar that is dead. Why is it dead? It's fiat currency, it's funny money, it's garbage. A dollar, this right here, this dollar bill, ain't worth shit. You know why? You know why it's not worth shit? It's because the Federal Reserve, the central banking system, says, hey, you know what? These banks up on top that work for us, they need more money. They need more money because they're about to die. They're just about to go under, and obviously you can't let them go under because they're too big to fail. So we lend them more money at a 0% interest rate, basically inflating the economy, making the dollar worth less. This dollar had so much more spending power in 1964 than it did right now. What can I buy with it now? Maybe a candy bar, and I have to pay 50 cents more in order to get the king size candy bar. And that's where I like to start with inflation, because inflation is the easiest to view when you're talking in topics of little things like candy. Back in 1964, this would give me 3, 4, 5 different candy bars of different kinds. It would get me a large sugar daddy. Not one of those little ones that you see now, but huge, the ones that you see at the Five Below for $5. This big ass caramel delicious bar that makes your teeth have cavities and everything else like that. Yeah, that used to be what? $1. Now it's like $5 or $3 or whatever it is. I don't remember. Last time I went to the Five and Below was quite a bit ago, a couple months ago. I don't really remember, but that's the point. That is the point. The dollar is ever decreasing in value because of the central banking system. It's ever decreasing in value, meaning that everybody's pay, everyone's income is ever decreasing in value. I could be assistant administrator, I can be making, what, $65,000 a year. That's fine, well and good right now, but years down the road, $65,000 a year is going to have less spending power, and instead of being able to buy as much groceries as I need for maybe half of my weekly salary for a family of 5, now it's going to be for my entire weekly salary. I'll be able to buy all of my groceries for a week of 5 for a month, instead of half of it for a family of 5 for a month. So that's what's happening to the dollar, and these CEOs and these people who think that they're all rich and they're all that, and they're making, maybe if they're really lucky, $200,000 a year, which is, you know, pretty much a lot of money for a CEO of a smaller business. Now they're making what? $200,000 a year still, but the dollar has decreased in value. And then you have Obama saying, yeah, all we need to do is we need to make sure that we increase the minimum wage. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Obama, and you probably already know this because you're behind with these bankers, because you're a corporate as fuck like all of the rest of the politicians out there. You understand that doing this will rally you support from the progressives and the liberals and all the people who think that they know how economics work. When in reality what you're doing is that you're ensuring that all of those people that pay you in order to get onto the pendulum and say that you're for the poor people and everything else like that, they're like, hey, you know what? Let's raise the minimum wage up to $9 an hour. What's that's going to happen is that it's going to put those smaller businesses in deep water. They're no longer going to be able to pay their employees, and even if they are, they're going to have to raise their prices. Now, obviously, you have certain companies like Walmart and Target and other huge corporations that basically come in there and delete all of their competitors from smaller businesses. They're going to be able to pay for $9 an hour, and And the dollar value is going to remain the same. Sure, it's going to remain the same for a certain period of time until Walmart and Target has finally gotten a monopoly in that certain area, in that certain district where it has taken over and basically killed all the smaller competitors. Smaller competitors are no longer there. What do you have? You have a Walmart paying its customer $9 an hour, but it's a monopoly, so it can fluctuate its prices depending on what the market says. No longer have to worry about the cheapest prices in the world. Now they raise their milk. They raise the price of their milk. They raise the price of their candy bars. They raise the price of the cereals and the underwear and everything else like that in the fucking store. Because guess what? We're paying these people $9 an hour. You have to at least be making $9 an hour as a citizen of the United States, as long as if you're employed. And what are you going to do? You're going to raise the price of milk. You're going to raise the price of underwear. You're going to raise the price of guns if you sell guns at fucking Walmart. Whatever you sell at Walmart, because of your monopoly, you're going to be able to raise them up a little bit. But nobody's ever going to be able to say anything. They're all going to say, oh, it's low prices. Why is it low prices? Because the monopoly is there. It's ate up all the competition. Any of the competition that's a little bit out of the way is a little bit more expensive than Walmart because they can't keep up with their competition. So you have all these people going over to Walmart eventually thinking that, oh, it's really good that all the prices are very low. Walmart takes over completely. Walmart, Target, everything else like that. They keep a competitive sort of outlining that they're actually competing with one another when they actually are helping each other out with basically making sure that the market is fluctuating to their own price set and everything else like that. You have these two companies that are working together and basically just eating up all the competition. You really think that those two companies, Target and Walmart, which basically follow the same design, are actually competing with each other? No, of course they're not. They're doing it so that Target gets one group and Walmart gets another group, and they help each other out so they grow and expand together. And eventually what's going to happen is that they're going to put it in the one store. It's going to be called to Walmart or something like that, but obviously they can't do that because that would be against monopoly laws. So what they do is they create an oligopoly, which, my friends, is a monopoly of two companies that seem like they're competing with one another, but really they're really helping each other out so they can continue being a monopoly. So derp, 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 derp. I don't know how people don't understand that. It's kind of obvious. Now, obviously, if you don't really pay attention as much as I do, which is probably a good thing, then you wouldn't understand this, and that's fine. Because it's really a burden to know all this stuff and basically keep your mouth shut about it, except on YouTube. 2014, we are living on an economy that is thriving on the ever-expanding inflation of our currency through market manipulation, of making the lower class think that they're being paid more when really in reality they're being paid less, by making sure that the dollar is inflated through minimum wage, through taxes that are used to make good-meaning people think that they're helping the unemployed and the poor, while they're not even putting anything into the system, into the welfare system. And then you're making the people who are not well-meaning and who do not like poor people, for the very reason where they think the state is actually helping out, which they're not. They're having these poor people go around, not be able to get a job because they're not able to get into a home in the first place because they don't have credit in the first place. They're not able to get into a home and they're not able to get a job. You're not able to work if you do not have a home. And the only way that you're able to work if you do not have a home is if you're working for under the table. And obviously taxes do not get taken out for getting paid under the table. But if you're being paid under the table, corporations and smaller businesses are then able to pay you less. And that dollar is not worth anything anymore because of minimum wage and because of inflation of the market and manipulation of the market through quantitative easing. These people are no longer able to fucking buy anything, so these people are slaves making $1 for nothing. Taxes go directly towards the corporate elite in order to make sure that their lobbyists are happy getting paid something that is not worth anything. Taxes are going directly towards the prison industrial complex to make sure that poor people, black people, white people, anybody that the government or corporations do not like are being put into prison cells so they can be used as manual slave labor in order to do certain things and make our items that we buy that stupid fucking teenage girls go out and buy, and they buy Aeropostale and iPods and iPads thinking it's the greatest thing in the world, when really, in reality, it's made by slaves in the prison industrial complex, and it's made by slaves abroad by these huge mega corporations who do not give a single shit about human life. Having fucking companies like Apple contract over to Foxtrot or whatever the fucking corporation's name is, having these Chinese people going off and trying to kill themselves because the poor labor conditions, throwing themselves on the sides of buildings, and the only safety net that they get from these fucking corporations is a net. So they don't die, so they can put them back into their fucking workforce, so they can fucking work to create your fucking shitty iPhones. The dollar isn't worth anything. Bitcoin is not our saving grace. The government has approved Bitcoin. Anything the government says, anything the government touches turns to shit. The only reason why they touched Bitcoin and said it's alright now to use is because they found another way to manipulate Bitcoin and make it into a central currency in which they can inflate and deflate just like our dollar. And that is going to be our downfall if you believe people like Peter Molyneux when he says that Bitcoin is our saving grace. Peter Molyneux is a very, very smart individual, and I agree with a lot of things that he says, but he's absolutely incorrect when it comes to Bitcoin and Litecoin. The only way that we're going to get ourselves out of this shit is by using a currency that is not approved by the federal government. And if we do not do that, we are in deep shit. We're going to churn and churn and churn until we cannot churn anymore, and we're going to become the slaves. Except this time, we will see the cell bars.